Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be painting up this Halfling Tinkerer from Warplock Miniatures and his faithful Clockwork Griffling.
Scruffy Crow.
So in order to foster a bit of community spirit over the Christmas period, one of the guys on the Arcworlde Facebook group has started a bit of a painting competition. So each month he comes up with some random words, generates some random words, and we try and paint some minis to fit. So this month, I can't remember what they are completely, but there was a sort of electrical and pumped and stuff. And I thought, the clockwork and the crazy inventor kind of fits with that quite well. I don't think I was the only one to think that this model, which is only recently released as part of the last Kickstarter, would fit quite well with that theme. So all I've done to these models so far is we've got a little bit of my cork sheet that I use on all my halflings, and then I've added a bit of sand around the base and in the gaps. So I'll come back once I've got these guys undercoated. So this guy is undercoated now, my normal two-tone undercoat, and I've started his skin. So I'm just doing this the same way with Idrin Flesh, Midland Flesh, and some Riken Flesh Shade. So the same way as my Ungors, which you've probably already seen the video for, and at the same time. And the chest has got the Idrin Flesh as well, so I can do the stripes. Okay, so I finished his skin tone up. There's not very much of it on this model. And I've started with a couple of greys. I've gone for some of this greatcoat grey in his trousers, just because I want them to sort of blend into the background a bit. They're not going to be very important. And then I've used some of this Celestia grey, because I think I'm going to do striped blue and white shirt cuffs. And then I'm going to have white Mad Professor hair. It's gone quite thin, so I probably need another little coat to get that really tight. I've also gone and done both bases in Rhinox hide as a sort of base colour. Next thing I'm looking at the chest model, and we've got some of this Dandry dust. And I'm just going to draw in some of this wood grain. Just very carefully. Something like that. I'm going to go around and do all the panels. There's already a little bit of texture sculpted in, which I'll try and follow that to a certain extent. But that'll just add to the way it looks, I think. Okay, I've been adding in some browns. So I've gone for Rhinox hide again on his apron, and some of the XV88 on his satchels, and there's a satchel in there as well. Managed to remember his little head strap there. I think that's most of my base colours down, really just the metallics, but I think I'm going to leave all metallics till last, which is a good proportion of this model. I've also kind of finished the bases to how I normally do them. That's with this Guncorpse brown and then some Menoth white dusted on top. That'll give me a nice little base for some foliage and similar. So now we've got the base colours down, we can try and do something a bit more fancy. I've got some blue here. This is the blue I normally use on halflings. And what I'm going to try here is I'm going to try and do some stripes down his shirt sleeves. So I'm watering this down a bit, but I want fairly broad stripes. So I'm going to go down, straight down his elbow to start with. That's the sort of thickness we're going for. And then we're going to try and imagine where his shirt would go up from there. And now I've got one stripe in and I'm happy with it. Things get a lot easier because then we just make sure all the rest of the stripes stay sort of parallel to that one. So now I've got my stripes in place. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time trying to make sure they're all the same thickness. And we're not just looking at the blue stripes, we're looking at the white stripes as well. And then we'll move on to the other arm. So there's all my stripes down, and I think I've pulled that off fairly well. So there's all my stripes down, and I think I've pulled that off very well. Now I've got some white scar. And we're going to want this watered down a bit as well, so it's just easier to work with. And now the trick is going to be, this is going to neaten up a lot of what we've done here, and the trick is to get this in between the lines. But ideally we want to leave a little bit of the undercoat layer showing, and that'll give us a little bit more definition between the two colours. But we can go over the blue in some places, especially when it needs a little bit of tightening up. And I'm going to use some of the lighter blues that I've got mixed up here. I'm just going to use these to just pick up some of the corners, just like a normal highlight, so only the raised edges where the blue is. Next up, I'm going to take a look at the dark leather on his apron here. For this, we're going to go with a mix of Rhinox hide and XV88. So, yeah, go for a bit of a half and half to start with, I think. Maybe a little bit darker. We want this fairly thin, so I'm going to be able to build this up. So I'm going to start with the most raised parts. I'm probably going to cover about, I don't know, 50% maybe. And now I'm more concentrating on the edges and the most raised parts. Now I've gone a bit too light, a bit too quick here. But that's fine, because what I'm going to do is I'll finish off some sort of edge highlights here. And then I'm going to mix a bit of a mid colour. Once again, real thin. And I'm going to use that just to sort of blend the two last colours we did together in. I'm using the same scheme on his gloves. Okay, I think I'm happy with that leather for a start. So next up I'll be looking at this Retributor Armor, and I'll be using this on this model for just the sextant here. And I think I'm going to do just certain areas of the griffling with him, maybe these pipes, and then the chest. The chest will be the big bit that'll be in this. I was thinking maybe doing like a warp block bronze underneath. But I kind of want this to look a lot brighter than that. I want this to be quite vivid. So I'm actually going to start straight with the Retributor Armor, I think. So now I've got all my browns and golds in place to where I want them for this stage. It's time for the trusty old Agrax Earthshade. So I'm going to use this to bring down the gold shade on the chest and also merge the wood colours together. It should also bring the grain that's sculpted in the model out a little bit. Same with on the wings, also all the gold on there. It should bring that down a little bit. Same on here, so I'm going to use it to bring out the details and bring this down a little bit. It'll be what I'm going to use to lowlight all of the XV88 pouches and everything. I'm also going to use it sparingly on his apron, just to lower some of the sort of contrast bits, just to pick out some little bits and pieces here and there. Same sort of colour on this bag as on his apron, and that's the effect we're going to go for there. And then on the gold, I mean, just take a look at the difference between one side and the other now. That's what we're going for. Okay, so the silver metals on his eyes and tongues here, and on the griffling, have been treated quite similar to the way I did the gold. Sort of undercoated in pig iron, and then given a black wash, and then with the gold and that silver, I've highlighted back up, so to the original gold on around the chest to give me a bit of contrast, and on the bird, and here I've highlighted with some Quicksilver. I'm going to continue to highlight the bird with a bit of Quicksilver, try and really pull out some of these edges, but I'm quite happy the way it's coming along actually. while I was doing the little screwdriver and things, I've also just painted in the handle with a couple of tones of red. I think that stayed quite striking, so I'm going to leave that like that. Re-highlighted the belt a bit. Just trying to make those different browns pop together. This guy's really coming together now, I'm pretty happy with him. And there's the bird again after I've given it another highlight in the Quicksilver. I think that looks pretty cool and robotic. Kind of happy with that's coming out. I'm also going to use a tiny amount of this Quicksilver on some of the bits of the chest, which I think would look most worn. Just really tiny amounts, just around these edges. Just to sort of make that look extra polished. I don't know if I pointed this out yet, but this chest does actually have little feet like the luggage of Discworld fame. They're pretty cool, so try and make them stand out a little bit. Okay, so I think I'm happy with all the metals now, and most of the other details. I think one of the final things I'm going to do is going to be his goggles and his little rock and the eyes on here. I try and do them all in glass, or like a glass effect. I've gone and found a different blue to what I used on his shirt. This is Cantor blue, should be a good base. And I'm just going to start by doing everything that I want, either blue or glass, for the base coat of this. Now I'm going to mix some of that with basically pure white for a nice icy sort of colour. I'm basically going to pretty much cover everything we just did. With the rocks I'm doing it slightly differently, trying to pick up some of those edges. While still keeping the blue in some of the crevices. Okay, for my third layer of blue, I've kind of gone for a sort of semicircle, a kind of crescent moon shape across the top of each lens. So on the little ones like that, it's just a tiny dab. But then that one, and I think you can see it best there, just across the top. And then I'm going to add even more white to it, so it's literally just a tint of blue. I'm just going to do a little dot in the corners of those. I'm treating the eyes on the Griffin the same way. I've also highlighted up the hair, as you see. That's just white, but I tried not to dry brush it. I tried to go in and just put it where I wanted it exactly, because it's kind of a bit crazy the way it's sculpted. And I think I've pulled that off fairly well. I'm just looking over the whole model now, trying to work out if there's any other little details I'd like to add in. I've also highlighted the jacket here, just a little bit of lighter grey on the dark grey, just to bring a bit of texture into it. I actually think I prefer my paint job on the back of this model than the front, just because you can see the stripes more and it's got a bit more thing, whereas on the front it's just pure detail. But yeah, I think he's coming out pretty nice. One little detail I spotted was his teeth. So I've got some of this Maneth white highlight. This is just an off-white. I've got quite a small brush. I'm going to see if I can paint in a couple of teeth individually. Okay, I did that, and that's left him looking considerably more predatory than I wanted. So I'm trying to blend these together a little bit more. I'm going to dump a little bit of Army Painted soft tone in there as well, just to see if I can make them a little bit less terrifying. There we go, I think that's worked to pull them back a little bit. So he has a manic smile, with that looking like he's going to swim out of the deep and eat you. Okay, we really are on to finishing touches now. I'm going to do his little rock and the one in the chest with a little bit of hard coat, and then I'm going to rim the bases, and then we'll be done. Okay, so that's the rims just drying now. I said I'd put the shiny on the gems there. Unfortunately, I don't have any of my tufts or grass or any of that good stuff to finish these off completely. It's all packed away at the moment, as is my proper miniature spinner and everything else I use to take photos normally. So as I said, this was for an Arcworlde Facebook group painting competition. So the photos I take now will be for that as well. And if you like the look of this model, come and check out Arcworlde on the Facebook group or on the website. Link will be in the description. And if you do come on the Facebook site and see the poll for the winners, feel free to click a vote on mine. Or to be fair, whichever one you think's best. And that's all for this video. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments. Maybe subscribe for more. And as ever, thanks for watching. Bye.